Well, today I'm going to be talking about 3 aquatic plants. They're all really great aquatic plants in their own right, but as I've been rescaping a lot of tanks, I'm just going to let you know that these 3 plants, you should probably think twice before you put them in an aquarium. Well, welcome to the small scape. Today I'm talking about 3 aquatic plants that I just thought I'd send out a little shout out. Think twice before you put these in your aquariums. And some of these, not even just because it's a small nano tank, because you know, the smaller the tank you get, you can invite other issues. Maybe your plants grow too tall, too fast. The water parameters can change really fast. Maybe you don't have a lot of options for little fish or other critters that you can put in the tank. So the smaller the nano tank, it can invite other issues. But these issues that I'm going to be talking about for these plants, you can even have, I've had mostly in the larger size of the nano tank, the 20 gallons, and I'm sure even larger. So let's get started. Number 1, I'm going to start off with the most obvious to a lot of you. If you're an experienced fish keeper, you probably already know the one I'm probably going to say, and that's the tiniest of the floating plants, and that is duckweed. If you had duckweed, I'm sure you really know it. It's very tiny, it's really cute, but it grows really, really fast, and it can totally take over the top of your tank. As much as you pull out, it'll just regenerate. It's kind of creepy, but it can very easily overtake your tank. It causes you a lot of maintenance. It certainly can, unless of course you have fish that like to eat it. We do have a lot of fish in our fish room that do like to eat it. A lot of the cichlids, or even like goldfish, severums, they all really like to eat it. But when you're talking nano tanks, I don't have any fish that really like to eat it. So it just kind of causes a little bit of a nightmare. Even as your water level drops, the duckweed can kind of get dried out and stuck to the side of the tank, making your tank not look so nice. And it can prevent oxygen from going in and out of the water, and also blocks light. So a lot of different issues. I just thought I would start off with that one. But in addition to duckweed, I would also add giant duckweed, which I have had. I do have it in a couple of tanks, and that can be almost as bad of a nuisance as the regular duckweed. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Just be very careful when you decide to add it, especially if you have multiple tanks. You get it in one tank and you're probably going to get it in a lot of tanks. But I have had I did do a video on how you can kind of easily, not easily, but more, it's kind of a relaxing way to maintain your amount of duckweed. I'll put that video up there for you. But moving on to number 2, and that would be very careful, just think twice before you add Riccia fluitans. I added this one to a 20-gallon long downstairs, and really excited. I had a variety of different floating plants. It was great. It's beautiful. It's really kind of a cool texture, totally different than a lot of the other aquariums. It's also known as crystalwort, but besides the fact you can actually use this as a carpeting plant, but that's typically in CO2 tanks, which I don't run any CO2. So it just as an FYI, it's kind of a really cool little pad almost that floats on the water. Really cool like texture. But if it starts breaking apart with water flow, or it just feels like breaking apart, maybe it's not very healthy, it starts to disintegrate and just break apart from that single mound, you're going to have a little bit of a cleanup, and that's just going to cause extra maintenance, and it looks kind of messy. So I'm just going to throw that one out there. I actually have not had it since that single time, just because it just to me said extra maintenance, and maybe I'll visit that again sometime, but haven't had it since. And number 3, my last one, and I'm going to do this with a big kind of qualification. Subwassertang. Yes, I know, I'm probably not pronouncing it right. If you would like to pronounce it the German way, that's fine. But I did do a video on it. I do love the plant. Don't get me wrong. It's a great plant. However, especially if you're a beginner, or you're just looking at a very easily to maintain tanks, I would think twice before getting Subwassertang and putting it in your tank. Why? Well, for the same reason as number 2, it can break apart very easily. especially in this tank over here, I started off with a very small amount, and the way that I really like to use it is to wedge it in between maybe two rocks, in between a little crevice in driftwood, and then it kind of stays very like a nice little clump, because once you break that apart, it's still made of little different little jelly looking pieces, and it will float all around your tank. So when I had to take on this tank, because the Subwassertang had grown so well, it had taken up the entire tank almost, and I wanted to, I don't know, be able to see the rest of the tank, I had to cut it back, pull out some of it, and it just disperses a whole bunch of different ones, and just floating all around the tank. I had the same issue in my 20 long, my farm tank. I had it in there until one day I had to spend a good hour or so fishing it out with a net, getting all of the Subwassertang completely out of the tank. So if you are going to use this one, I would highly recommend that you tie it somehow. Make sure that it's very secure, either wedging it in, like I do, like in a little nook or cranny of some driftwood, or with fishing line. Make sure that it's kind of in a nice little compact package, and it will eventually, it'll just kind of grows on itself and it will stay kind of tidy. But if anything disrupts it, or if you're doing some maintenance, you're doing some gravel vacuuming and gravel vacuuming and you knock it loose, just beware that you may very well have it all over your tank. So that is your video for today. I just thought it would be super helpful, as we're actually going through and I'm doing some kind of changes around and doing a little bit of, not necessarily rescaping, but some of them just kind of updating some scapes. Just thought I would share these little tips that I get. So especially if you want to just keep easily to maintain tanks, especially when it comes to aquatic plants. So thanks so much for watching the video. Let me know, are there any plants that you've had before and you're like, never again? Let me know which ones those are, and let me know your thoughts on the 3 that I mentioned. Do you still love them? Do you not have them? Have you never tried them? Let me know. Hope you have a great weekend.